right, good afternoon, everyone. Appreciate you coming out. Look, what we heard from the governor today is obviously a proposal, and I emphasize that we talk about the budget address, but what it really is a proposal with ideas that he has in terms of the numbers that we'll be looking at as we vote on a budget later. But the real work for developing the budget begins in earnest with the appropriations committees in the House and the Senate meeting, having hearings, and figuring out how to move this economy forward. What we do know about the proposal from the governor today is that it spends too much. It's unsustainable moving us into the future in future budget years, but it also doesn't do enough in terms of policy to grow the economy. I understand that the governor has optimism, as do all of us, about the future of Pennsylvania's economy, but it doesn't take an economist to walk into the grocery store and realize we have a problem, or look at our energy production in the state and realize we have a need. One of the single best things we could do to ignite the economy in Pennsylvania is to unleash our energy industry. And the first thing that comes with that is getting us out of RGGI, the Regional Greenhouse Gas Initiative, and ensuring that nothing even takes its place, that we allow our energy producers and providers to really grow here in Pennsylvania, ensure that we're not losing in the competition to Ohio and West Virginia and other surrounding states. This is what we can do to ignite our economy. Our economic trends are showing a dangerous shift in our demographics in Pennsylvania. We have more retirees, and we love our seniors, and we want to care for them here in Pennsylvania. But we also need a strong workforce, and we need a population that supports the jobs of the economy that we need moving forward. We believe that starts with energy production, and those kind of policies is what we will look at as House Republicans to ensure that we are able to move this economy forward. That is the only thing that will sustain budgets moving forward. And with that, it gives me a great privilege to introduce our Appropriations Chairman, Jim Struzzi.
Thank you, Leader Topper, and good afternoon, everyone. That was quite the budget address that we heard today. A lot of spending, but I don't think the governor actually quantified how much he is going to spend. His proposal, his request for spending increases to $51.4 billion over the next year, a $3.6 billion increase from his request last year, 7.5%, at a time when we only expect revenues to grow by $1.3 billion. So where is that money coming from? The governor has proposed some new taxes, as I'm sure you heard, taxes that don't exist currently. So essentially banking on revenues that we don't have right now, draining our surplus to zero, and taking $1.6 billion from the rainy day fund. We understand there are needs out there and obligations that have to be met, but that is not sustainable. Moving forward, we will see the rainy day fund gone in 2 years. We will not see a budget surplus, and in fact, we will most likely see a deficit. So the only solution, as Leader Topper indicated, is either to raise taxes or raise revenues. We see the most viable solution to addressing this gap as unleashing our energy industry. We know that billions of dollars in investment have gone to other states since RGGI was first proposed by the previous administration. This governor had a chance to get rid of that, knowing full well the impact it's having on Pennsylvania, but he chose not to. And so here we are today looking at revenues that aren't meeting our expenditures, and a governor who's proposing a $51.4 billion spending plan. What does that mean? Just to break that down so people can understand just how much money $51.4 billion is. That's $141 million per day, $5.8 million per hour, $98,000 per minute. That's roughly $20,000 more per minute than the average family in Pennsylvania makes as a median income. That is excessive. We either need to rein that spending in or find a way to pay for it. I think we need to do both. The spending has increased dramatically over the last 10 years. We need to begin the process to rein that in, unleash our energy industry to increase revenues, and then we can truly meet the needs of our communities, the needs of our Commonwealth moving forward. But as it stands right now, this is not sustainable, and we do understand that this is the beginning of the process, and we will break this budget down further during the appropriations hearings coming up in a few weeks. But as it stands right now, I think every taxpayer in Pennsylvania should be very concerned with this spending proposal. And now I would like to introduce Whip Tim O'Neill. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman Struzzi. So we're now in our 10th year of hearing the same old tired ideas for our Commonwealth. The governor just got done talking about Groundhog Day, and that's exactly what we just heard. It's just the repeat of the same failed policies that come straight out of the Wolf administration. Budgets are meant to solve problems, not create new ones. Under Governor Shapiro's leadership, we've been placed behind most of the nation in job growth. Pennsylvania ranks 33rd in employment. Business startups are declining, and we rank 41st out of 50 in business environment, labor market, and overall economic growth. These are all the direct results of Governor Shapiro's failed policies. However, there is an alternative. For Pennsylvania to fully reach its potential, we must strengthen our economy. We need to attract and retain skilled workers by becoming more competitive with surrounding states. We need to lower our tax rates to make Pennsylvania a more attractive place for people to live and work. And we need to unleash our energy potential by leading with a bold, balanced energy plan that prioritizes affordability, reliability, and economic growth for all Pennsylvanians. Yet, Governor Shapiro's proposal does the opposite. Last week, the governor was in Pittsburgh to roll out his new Green Deal, another tax on electricity consumers as costs are already skyrocketing. Just more of the same failed policies. The governor says that he's saved us $21 billion in energy fees and electricity fees. Yet, I can guarantee you, there's nobody across the Commonwealth that's expecting their bill to go down. If we actually invest in our energy industry, the sky is the limit. We sit in one of the largest reserves of the most reliable and efficient energy source known to man. Yet year after year, we discuss new ways to handicap the natural gas industry at the expense of every Pennsylvanian. Investing in energy will mean new economic growth in Pennsylvania, bringing thousands of jobs and opportunities to every corner of the state. And we will not only bring utility costs down for consumers, but also generate millions more in revenue than any tax dreamed up by Governor Shapiro. That means investing in baseload energy and building new gas power plants, not subsidizing unreliable, expensive energy sources from China. And that means, as Chairman Struzzi mentioned, that means once and for all leaving the Regional Greenhouse Gas Initiative and sending any new carbon tax proposals like it out the door with it. That's how you grow revenue, by addition, not subtraction. Governor Shapiro, you cannot tax and spend your way to economic growth. Let's invest in people and businesses that will help our economy grow. Let's invest in Pennsylvania, and let's actually get shit done.
Questions? Steve.
Leader Bradford down there indicated that getting things like skill games and marijuana, which Shapiro put in the budget address, is going to require bipartisan support. That would include having to get votes from Republicans on those issues. I'm just curious from your perspective right now, are those two revenue measures that House Republicans can get behind in some form?
Look, I think we have to be very cautious in projecting revenue from items that are not yet legal nor regulated. We know that we need to look at skill games in Pennsylvania in terms of regulation and what we can do in that market, but it's not happened now. What we have a tendency to do in this building is overly project the amount of revenue we could get from something like cannabis or skill games. So until we actually get support, and I do believe, I agree that with Leader Bradford, it will have to be a five-party deal that is worked out. The governor is the one who can bring those deals together. But as of now, to project revenue from those two industries, I think is a large mistake and could leave holes in our budget for years to come. Yep.
Comments on the proposal for the education spending, increasing funding to the more needy schools. I mean, there is a legal requirement to start bringing some balance to schools across the Pennsylvania if this not.
I've been in the General Assembly now over a decade, and we've seen increase to education funding every year that I've been here. And it's important. Education is certainly a part of what we do, and it's a part of our priority as the House Republican Caucus as well. What we also need to make sure, in addition to increasing dollars to public schools, is to ensure that each and every child has access to a high-quality education. even if public school is not the right option for them. Perhaps it's a charter school, perhaps it's being homeschooled, perhaps it's a private school. We need to do more in terms of transformational change in our education system other than just spending more money. And that is going to involve a lot of the policies that we as House Republicans have advocated for and that the governor has indicated that he'd be willing to sign. But we need to get it to his desk and we need to see if he'll sign it. Yes?
What have House Republicans made of Governor Shapiro's proposal in regards to transportation and mass transit funding?
Once again, there has to be policy and reform that goes along with any funding. We acknowledge that there are various forms of transportation throughout the Commonwealth. And look, it is one of the core functions of government to provide infrastructure for its citizens to ensure that they can travel and goods and services can be moved. But in addition to funding SEPTA, there has to be reforms within the system. And once again, this is a five-party deal that the governor will need to bring together and ensure that all areas of the Commonwealth are equal in that regard.
You keep mentioning you need five-party agreement for new transit and marijuana and skill games. Would it be easier to get to a five-party agreement if the governor wasn't a imposition figure in his own right?
Well, I'm not going to speak for the governor. All I'll say is the same thing that my counterpart in the Senate said, Senator Pittman, which is there is one person that has the ability to bring those deals together, and that is the governor.
Besides pulling out of Reggie, having the governor pull out of the lawsuit, besides that, what's the number one thing your caucus wants done to unleash energy, as you say?
Get rid of the regulations that are really hampering the industry. Look, there is no one that thinks that Pennsylvania business in any sector, including energy, is under-regulated. We know that we need to look at, as Whip O'Neill mentioned, the base load capacity. We have to get what we have out of the ground and use that here in Pennsylvania. Anything that stands as an impediment to that needs to go away. And we're being very clear as a caucus. That's not just Reggie. That's any plan that looks or sounds or is, in fact, like Reggie, which is a carbon tax, which will certainly hurt that sector. And what it really does, it provides instability in the market so that there is no generation going on here in Pennsylvania. Look, we are a couple years away from a potential energy crisis. That is something we can agree upon. When we have the ability to get the solution to that crisis out from under our feet right here in Pennsylvania, then we have to do it.
Are there any pieces of the governor's energy plan that you actually support, such as some of the tax incentives for producers? Any pieces?
I mean, look, I think incentives and I'm someone who wants to see the market take care of incentivizing. I think the best thing that we can do is to step back and allow the market to work. But look, we'll certainly work with the governor on any part of the plan that we agree with him on or that we think can move Pennsylvania forward. But the number one thing we have to do is we have to get out of Reggie. Charlie.
I was just wondering, at this early point in the process, is there a rate of spending increase that you guys would be more comfortable with compared to what the government has?
Until we see some policies that will move the economy forward, it's really not about how much we spend. That's the number one thing. We have to see the set of policies that can be enacted here in Pennsylvania that drive the economy. Otherwise, none of those numbers are worth the paper they're printed on.
You mentioned on the revenue side, are there any specific parts of his revenue estimates that you believe are inflated beyond the marijuana, skill games, things like that? Is that a broader issue that you're looking at?
Sure. I think we would be more in line with the IFO. We believe that the revenue estimates are rosy, to say the least. But once again, the estimates are the estimates. What we can see are what our constituents are feeling the pinch for each and every day, and we can tell that the economy is slowing. We need to get it reignited again.
Spending less money, we want to create revenue, but at this point you're saying we also need to spend money. When it comes to education, would there be any interest in pulling funds from the basic ed, running them through adequacy without allocating?
Well, we have to see what that policy picture would look like. Everybody up here, I believe, supports a vibrant public education system to go alongside with education in total in the Commonwealth, but there's a lot of transformation that has to take place within the system. And we've heard a lot about that, whether it be encouraging schools to integrate some of their technologies and some of their staffing capacities. There are all kinds of ways that we can look. We heard through the Basic Education Funding Commission some of those ways. We need to look at that. We need to look at how we're spending our money as well. And we also have to acknowledge that we need to do things in our public schools that work, like structured literacy, like the science of reading. If we're going to invest dollars, we need to make sure it's also investing in the areas that are going to grow our students.
Reactions to the cost-saving plan potentially closing 2 state prisons?
No, we'll have to take a look at those.
Raising the state's minimum wage to $15 an hour, we know it's deciding for some time. Is there a number, if not 15, and Republicans are not behind, is there a compromise where you think that Republicans could agree on?
Look, I'm sure the minimum wage will be on the table, but I will say this: raising the minimum wage does not grow the economy. It simply does not. It does not drive the economy in the way that we need it to here in Pennsylvania, but I'm sure everything will be on the table over the next few months.
Are there any things off the top of your head that you think you would be able to cut and that would get you to a balanced budget point, or get you to a point of not drawing down on the balance or the rainy day balance?
Look, we're not going to use the governor's proposal necessarily as a spot to say, well, we would do this a little differently, this a little differently. We'll look at that over the next couple weeks in appropriations. What we do know is that the projected level of spending, regardless of which programs, and there's a lot of good programs we can talk about and a lot of good ideas, but if you can't sustain them into the future, then you have a problem. That's what we have to look at, is the sustainability. Whatever the number is, it has to be sustainable moving forward. Once you establish that, then you can look at which programs are working and which ones are not as well. All right, thank you, everybody.